So the contrast between UK or Alderney, where we live, and Japan, the places in Japan that we visited, is so immensely different. It was fantastic. I think the way that we planned it was fantastic. I think we had 3 or 4 days in Tokyo to arrive and get our brains settled. Then we picked up some bags and went travelling for 2 weeks.
Yeah, nearly 2 weeks.
Yeah, about 10 days or so, wasn't it? A bit more.
11, 12 days.
Yeah. And then back to Tokyo. Let the dust settle a little bit, let our brains catch up. Then we had New Year's, which was absolutely fantastic. And then we had another week and a half or 2 weeks after that. So you never felt you were arriving at the end of your holiday. And in fact, part of me is still there, because even getting to the airport on the last day, I didn't feel as though we were leaving. I felt, by contrast, I was bringing a lot of Japan back with me. And that's still with me very strongly. I love travelling, and I love travelling by train, and I would much rather do that than fly, because everything outside the window feeds the imagination and it satisfies the mind. You can see where you're passing through. From a plane, even if you're not 50,000 feet, but you're 20,000 feet or whatever, you can look down, but you can't really experience it in the same way. They're hilarious. Again, it's 2 parts. They are so good, so efficient, so looked after. On the platforms, when the train comes in, suddenly there's this burst of music, and sometimes it's really frantic, and other times it's very soft and floaty, classical, and sometimes it's just birdsong, and each station seems to have its own signature tune. So every time a train comes in, this music buds out, but everyone's just standing there very calmly. One of the things that occurred to me when we were on one of the longer Shinkansen trips, there was a guard that came in, was just strolling through the carriage, and he was just kind of looking left and right, making sure everybody was okay. I suppose he didn't stop to talk to anybody. But as he got to the far end of the carriage, he turned round and bowed to the carriage. Without making a big thing of it, he just bowed for a second, and then turned and went through the doorways, connecting doors into the next carriage. And I presume he'd done that when he came in, because when I could see through the glass that when he went into the next carriage, he bowed before going through that one. And I thought that was so lovely. There's a beauty in that. It's a sort of, it wasn't operatic, but it was so lovely to see as a mark of respect. I'm coming through now. People probably couldn't see him very easily because a lot of people would have their backs to him. So it wasn't until he passed through and went to the other door. And I don't know if anybody else actually took much notice of it. Maybe they're used to it. But to me, there was a beauty in that, a recognition that he was here, that he was going to pass through where we were sitting, and it stays with you. That was really lovely. In a moment, but one of the other things about the trains was that they're so clean, absolutely fantastically clean. You get the feeling they've had a spring clean 2 or 3 times a day. And there was one instance where we got on a train which had reached the terminus, and it waited there, and the doors were closed for a while. And when they opened, we got on. So I think there were only about 3 people in the carriage. And somebody who was on the sort of spick and span cleaning service got on with a dustpan and brush. And again, he bowed to the carriage. And then he started looking around for something to clean, and there wasn't anything he could find. And there was a point where he looked down and he thought he saw a speck of dust or something, and he eagerly went towards it, and then he realised it wasn't, and he looked so disappointed. There was nothing to clean up. And this is beautiful to me, and it's absolutely fantastic. And those sorts of things, again, those images are very sharp in my mind. Yeah. If you like food, apart from going out and eating it, just watch the television. Everything is about food. The Japanese are all about food. Excuse me. Fortunately, I love food. There's a whole different approach to the kind of foods that they present and the way they display it. Everything looks so tasty. Everything looks so yummy. And they're so naughty, because if you walk into a department store, one of the first things you'll see, or one of the first things your nose tells you as soon as the door's open, fresh bread, and suddenly you're in there and you've got this array of, I don't know, exotic donuts and sort of swirly sponge cakes with lots of lovely things in. Pies, pastries, savouries, sweet candy sort of breads and that sort of thing. Banana breads, cheese breads, a whole array of them. And you think, I've got to stop here on the way out, I mustn't start eating now. But you can choose your own. You get a pair of tongs and a tray and just pick up what you want, pop it on the tray and then take it up to the counter and the gentleman or lady will sort of pop them into a bag for you and that's it. Interestingly, I didn't see people walking along eating from those bags particularly. It might have happened, but I didn't see it. In UK, quite often, if somebody buys something from a baker's, the first thing they do is shove it in their mouth and stand there eating it. And I don't like to do that particularly. I can do it, but I don't like to do it. But I didn't see any of that in Japan. Where there are markets and lots of street stalls and so on, often, I say often, we've been there this time and once before 5 years ago, but there are so many specialist sort of shops that do 2 or 3 kinds of things. And so often there are queues, which don't last long, the queues move very quickly. The sort of deep fried and tempura and the breaded sort of things, which are so fantastic. And those seem to be all over the place, those little shops. So you can stop almost anywhere and just look to your left or your right and find something really nice to eat, which is incredibly reasonably priced, I think. Although I wasn't converting stuff to yen in my head, when you explained what the exchange rate was and what this would be in pounds, it was amazing the difference, but I think the yen was quite weak at the time, wasn't it? Okay, convenience store.
Convenience.
Conveni.
Conveni.
Oh God, they are so annoying. I mentioned the department stores, with all the bread and so on in the window, but the convenience stores have got pretty much everything you need in a small local store, and they are all over the place. You're more or less tripping over the family. Is it called Family Store or something?
Family Mart.
Family Mart, Lawson, 7-Eleven. Yeah, and those 3 particularly saw quite a lot of.
Yeah.
Particularly near hotels, which was a very smart move, because a lot of the hotels you can eat in, or you can go out to a restaurant, but also you can pick up something hot from a convenience store, and take it back to your hotel room and have a lovely sort of secret meal up in your room, looking out, over the skyline and the city and so on. And it's lovely quality.
Yeah.
And a lot of the foods, some of the foods are already pre-cooked or in sort of hot cabinets.
Yeah.
So you can just get those as you want. Or you can get pre-packaged but really good quality meals. Whether they're sort of stews or something with noodles, something with rice, vegetarian, meat-driven, fish-driven, and salads. And they will be heated up in the store for you. You can get pastries, you can get sweet pastries, or you can get cheese or savoury filled rolls, which can also be heated up and you take those back to your room. So some of them do chips as well. I really got a taste for the deep fried chicken or deep fried pork, but those were great. Something like that with the sauce I tended to go for was sesame sauce.
You love sesame sauce.
Because it just complemented with a salad. And the salad was so satisfying. But with salad, sesame sauce and maybe 1 or 2 pieces of chicken or pork, breadcrumbed and warmed through. That was a lovely meal. They were fantastic. But I started looking out for convenience stores thinking, I wonder if they've got chicken. So trying to engineer us to go in there. But they're not the same as going to a restaurant, and the restaurants are lovely. But I think it's just another indication that if you go to a convenience store, you can get some fantastic food. You go to a restaurant, you get fantastic food. You go to a stall in a street or amongst a market, market traders, you can get some fabulous fruit and vegetables. department stores, you can't avoid food. There's a great amount there that would appeal to the Western tastes, but it's also an introduction into the Japanese tastes, because there will be Japanese style sauces. If you get some noodles with some steak, you're automatically then trying Japanese with something that you will understand from the Western side. So it introduces the palate in. So if your palate is so designed by Western foods, it doesn't mean that you won't enjoy what you find in Japan. But if you want to explore, if you've got the feeling that you're happy to explore, nothing's going to kill you. But try something with some noodles. Try something with some something that you haven't tried before, because there's so much to explore. The best thing is gohan.
Gohan.
Rice.
Of course.
Japanese rice. It just, I understood exactly what. No, sorry. It's too presumptuous to say I understood. I had an understanding of the importance of rice in Japanese food. In England, or perhaps as we might see in Indian food, it's an accompaniment to a curry or to other kinds of Indian foods. In Japan, it's not an accompaniment, it's the centre of the food, in my appreciation. And other things are around to complement it. So if you've got some very rich sauce, if you've got some crunchy pickled vegetables, plums, gherkins, or whatever it's going to be, cucumber or Japanese radish, to have something which is sharp and sweet and crunchy, and then some gohan, they go together so well, but they're completely unlike each other. And you have gohan rice with a Japanese curry. The curry is so rich and fantastically satisfying, and these pearly white beads of rice are so gorgeous, and it's unlike Asian rice, unlike Indian rice, but it's kind of separate in separate grains. This holds together, and I think it's sometimes called sticky rice, but it just kind of holds together. It's not gluey, but it's really satisfying, and it's beautiful textures. That looks like little pearl drops on a plate. Yeah. And it's beautiful. And I can see why that is so satisfying even by itself. A little drop of seasoning or oil or whatever, you can put anything with it, and it's absolutely fantastic. That is the most significant thing food-wise, which is interesting considering all the lovely highly seasoned stuff we had, which is absolutely brilliant. I would always come back and say, okay, I've got to start with rice. The restaurants were fantastic as well. And we went to quite a variety on this. Some were quiet and more expensive, and some we had some fantastic beef in. Absolutely fantastic. That was a beautiful meal.
It's really lovely,
yeah,
wasn't
really.
it?
I think the main course, particularly, I think that's why I think we both went for it. It had lovely sauce, and the meat was so tender. You could have used a pencil like that, and it would just sort of open up. But it was so succulent and so satisfying. We met the wife of the owner, the chef, and the chef himself. And they were so nice, and they had time for us as well. But we sat there and just had the most fantastic meal. It was, I'd stop going on about it. But yes, it was called Lemidi. Lemidi, I think. Yeah. Each region also will have its own specialities. In a way, I didn't want to go at it like a sort of hungry tourist thing. I've got to eat everything. I wanted to be able to savour a few things. And, that was wonderful to be in Japan for New Year's, because as you've explained to me, as I understand it, it is the equivalent of the Christmas in the UK or in the West. So although Christmas is celebrated on a sort of small scale, in a quite low level, New Year's Day is the significant time of the year. It's the ending of one year, of course, and the beginning of the next, and it's when I think it's probably more emotionally important for the Japanese. I think going to the shrine on New Year's Eve later on, which was stunning. And I was surprised that there was going to be a queue there.
Yeah.
That's
I was surprised.
one of the few
as well.
places there was actually a queue.
I didn't
At
expect
midnight.
that.
But that was lovely as well because there were open fires, sort of fire lanterns either side of the entrance to the shrine,
Yeah.
and within the shrine there were 3 fires in there, sort of burning, and they were being tended by officials or priests or something. And there was I don't know how significant the music was, but Japanese music and humming, the kind of tonal, priestly sort of humming and so on, going on at the same time. So it's very atmospheric. It was a beautiful evening. It was sort of chilly but not cold, and there wasn't any wind. And we entered the temple grounds and bowed to the I don't know if you'd call it an altar, but the significant area where you ring the bell and you give thanks for the year and so on.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful, and I felt so good coming up there. I felt lifted,
What's up?
as though I sort of left some goodwill and some thanks, and I felt good about having been there. That was lovely. I think what I'm saying really is I want to spend more time in Japan, exploring Japan, enjoying Japan, and respecting how the Japanese live and how they deal with life there, and to live in such a beautiful part of the world with such danger around, which we felt the tremors of in Tokyo,
Yeah, it's hard.
when there was the tragic.
And Haneda Airport.
Yes, and the tragic period of the new year. I can see how that enhances the value of life and the importance of respecting not just the city you live in, the place you live in, but the people that live there and the place that you live. And I think that feeling sort of stays with me very much. But I'd like to explore as much as possible, just everywhere in Japan.
We will.
And eat.
And eat.
One of the things I did really like actually was that nowhere we went was completely crowded. It wasn't full of tourists. I mean, for instance, when we went to the aquarium, but when we came out of there, there was almost nobody to be seen. It's a great big open tiled sort of plaza, and sometimes we were the only people there, which was stunning, but that's because it was out of season. So lots of benefits to go out of season, but of course you might find that not everywhere is completely open all the time. I can't unravel the fact that the country is so fascinating, which it would be without any people there at all. But the people are so fascinating because of the way they've learned to live with that country and what it means to them. I think there's a pride to be Japanese. Of course, any teenager growing up might think, I'm fed up being Japanese, I want to go and live in America. And somebody in America might say, being American, I want to go to England. Or from England, you might want to go to Japan. It's just part of growing up, I think. But I think Japan is probably one of those most special of places because it is welcoming to you. I feel there's an integral sort of honesty and respect amongst the people, regardless of age or background. And it's inherent in the people, I think, to have that inside them. I don't know whether it's a learned thing or whether it's an instinctive thing. I think it's probably a bit of each. I can't help but observe people. I love writing, and I just watch how people walk, how they respond to each other, how some people cross the road, how people walk with their animals, their pets. It truly is a fascinating country. The other thing was actually seeing Japan from within a family. That was absolutely fantastic and so special. So in a way that precedes everything. Because if I was in a hotel room, if we were travelling and staying in hotels, I'd see it from the vantage point of us travelling and going out and exploring places. But to be within a family and see how they live, or the extended family live, was so special. That was really, that's something that stays in my heart.
Yeah,
And I now have a Japanese family. Well, I think I did have before, but they didn't throw me out. They were very pleased to see me go, but they didn't throw me out. They drove me very fast to the airport.
No, I think they really enjoys the time with you.
Yes,
I think so. Yeah, it's lovely. Okay then. Bye bye.
Oh, bye bye. See you soon.